Five, four, three, two, one. We have ignition. Strap in. You're about to listen to the hottest sounds.
Dream Catcher Radio.
Sometimes when you're in a dark place, you think you've been buried, but actually, you've been planted.
Well, I won't back down. No, I won't back down. You could stare me up at the gates of hell, but I won't back down. No, I'll stand my ground. Won't be turned around, and I'll keep this world from dragging me down. Gonna stand my ground.
Yeah.
Okay, we are back for the Ralph Christie Injustice case, and it is now episode 26. That means now you got 2 times 26, which is 52 hours of recording. Is that right? Oh, yeah. I'm questioning myself because it's late when we're doing this pre-record. And I've been up for well over, I don't know how many hours, to be honest. But it's been a long time. It's got so 15 hours while we're doing this. So anyway, we are back. Now we got some important updates to discuss. Since starting the series, Susan Thomas has actually reached out to me personally. I got that right, isn't it? Because I normally use a different name by accident. And that's been really interesting. Sent a load more documents which I've never seen before, and very, very relevant in this case, indirectly in some respects. So I'm looking forward to having the opportunity to go through those at some point. It's been hectic. Actually, Ralph, I saw some of your videos. Actually, where can people find you on your social media? Because you're posting like stuff you're doing over there in Crete and that sort of stuff. How do people find you?
Yeah, well, hi, Bradis. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I forgot to say that. Yeah.
I'm on www.calltocrete.group, which we spoke about last week, and then my email address is ralphchristie@calltocrete.group. So I mean, I'm alive and I'm large, and anyone wants to get in touch, they can do. But of course, I'm battling this massive miscarriage of justice, which has certainly been. Since you introduced the word narrative about a month ago, it certainly is a narrative now. And of course, I thank Jane Thomas for getting in touch with you. As I say, I haven't communicated with her for before May 2021, when the family court probably cut her off completely, or with some sort of deal to ever get in touch with me again.
Yeah. The interesting thing about that is, right, when I did that little skid, if you want to call it that, a narrative, yeah, I get emails now. I found my narrative. And I caused myself a bit of a problem there.
Yeah, well, fairy tales shouldn't exist, should they?
Yeah, well, yeah. We live in a. Who was I speaking to? Oh, yeah, it was Phil. He said if you put human beings into the system, don't expect the same results over and over again.
No. Yeah.
It's so true, isn't it? So I got stopped by the police today.
Okay, it wasn't you weren't in West Yorkshire, were you?
No, I was in Windsor.
Oh,
I was in my mate's car, right? I don't know how much it's worth. It's worth a lot of money, over 100 or something like that. They stopped me, pulled me into this lay-by. They're pulling loads of people in and that sort of stuff. And I had to get to an appointment, and I was borrowing it just to do this conference thing. Because it's a lovely car. I mean, I don't like it personally, in all honesty, but anyway, it looks great. The and so the police officer or police officers come over to me and said, "Is this your car? And can I see your driver license?" I already had my driving license out anyway. I said, "Here you go," and I said, "No, it's my mate's car." And he said, "Where are you going?" I said, "I'm just going like 3 miles up the road to a conference center." And they said, "How fast does the car go?" I said, I don't know. It's 30-mile-an-hour limit here."
Yeah,
Yeah. The and I was there for like a couple of minutes. Oh, the point of the story I was going to say, right? So I could hear so much commotion going on in the background, like because they must have stopped. There must have been like half a dozen cars there, people arguing with the police and that sort of thing. It's not worth arguing with the police, to be honest. Seriously,
no,
if you want to just, I know it's bad, where you want to protest and say you're breaking the law yourselves, but what will happen is, right, they will find a tire tread, which below limit, or some light not working, or whatever it may be. I was there for 3 minutes,
or
and
or a narrative, of course, they could find.
yeah, they'll find anything. They'll
Yeah,
find anything. We
yeah.
don't like you. We don't like your mum. I don't know.
I mean, when I was, I always respected the police, and I was glad to see a police officer.
Mm.
'Cause back in the days in 1980s, hello, how are you? And well, Cedric, of course, was a cadet and a police officer, and many friends of his and mine. We got on very, very well. But I think the whole thing now has kind of completely changed, and we got to wonder why a police officer would be a police officer when they're being governed by rules that are totally not what was it John Peel that started the police officers in the 19th century. It was all about just stopping crime, but I think the police now, they like to create crime to get more stars, but hopefully it'll all
Oh, I wouldn't create crime. Police officers creating crime. That's not right.
well, I think they do. I think they do. Well, I certainly haven't committed a crime, and they've certainly created.
Oh, I see. In your case, basically, they want to
Well,
manufacture something. I got you. Okay,
well,
got you.
yeah. Well, yeah, I think in many.
Yeah. No, I mean that's injustice, isn't it? But day to day, I think, in all honesty, police officers. I mean, I know a lot through other stuff that I do. Um, they really struggle for various reasons, mainly management, basically. Um,
Yeah,
the but yeah.
I,
So, but
I think the suicide rate in the prison in the police officers is very, very high, and divorce is very, very high, and family breakups. It's
infidelity is massive as well in the police, by the way.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
The probably I wonder if there's a study on that actually, proportion to say accountants.
Oh, there is, and it's high.
Yeah, I imagine it
You know,
would.
Cedric was suicidal, wasn't he, in April 2009? I didn't know he was, but his police force certainly didn't. He was diagnosed with it by Dr. Spain that we've spoken about before, and he had police burnout,
Yeah,
which
yeah,
makes it even more strange why he did what he did in 2014 to go against me. He should have said I've got police burnout and retired graciously, and that would have been it. But of course, well, he's just got to be in his bonnet about something going on wrong over here, which was total nonsense.
yeah. The so what's been going on anyway at your end?
Well, as I mentioned in last week's program, my great friend Steve Minor's still here, and we had his birthday on Tuesday, and he leaves today, or well, I say tomorrow because we're pre-recording. It's been great to see him, and things are going well here, and I'm getting great responses from a lot of people now that realise that. I mean, many people realise this even when I was sentenced, because I had lots of friends in the public gallery. But it's just been like an English farce and a Greek tragedy, really, of what's gone on. But day to day, it's just the same as when you were here a month ago, brothers.
Yeah. While you're talking about that, right? The infidelity is 14.5% higher than people in education and the healthcare sector. I don't know if that helps any of the listeners, but if you're in the police force, you're more likely to cheat on your partner.
Well, yeah,
So
yeah.
imagine the stress of like cheating on your partner all the time and all that sort of stuff. Get that?
Yeah, I don't think. I mean, I don't know about Cedric because of he did all his confession and what have you. But I think he was faithful to his first wife, Carol, as far as I know. And in fact, it was her that was unfaithful to him for a couple of years. And him being a police officer, he never even picked up on that. So,
Can I ask one question before we move on? Yeah, the
mhm.
building costs, right, in Crete, how much have they gone up with percentage wise, in your opinion, per square foot or whatever it may be?
From when I first came over in 2001, or
Give me more. When was the last time you did a building project? Actually built something?
well, I'm building stuff now and what have you. I'd say the price.
Okay, fine. Say, oh yeah, okay, yeah, fine. Do the period of 2001 to now. How much has gone up? Percentage.
Uh, the building costs back in 2001, 2002 would have been about €800 a square meter.
Yeah.
And then, of course, at that time, the euro was like 150 to the pound. So that is how I got the inspiration to do all this, because I could see building a house for €120,000 here, in fact, would cost somebody from the UK 90,000 sterling. Now, these same properties are probably that I was doing then are now valued probably 250,000 today. The cost per square meter on the larger villas is it's €2,000 at least a square meter, depending on the quality of what you want. But the building laws in Greece are some of the strongest in Europe. And they're all built on 1.5 meters of concrete, and they've got to have the pillars because we're on an earthquake zone. There's actually a saying that if there was an earthquake in Turkey, that 90% of the houses would fall down, and if there was one in Crete, less than 1% would. So, and apart from the older ones in the villages that are renovations. So, the building control here is very, very strong, and that is where the money is spent. Really, it's not actually in the bricks or the breeze blocks that go up outside. It's the structure.
Right. So it's gone up 1,100 quid since 2001. The 1,100. Yeah, 1,100. Yeah. The Okay. All right. I just wondered actually because I was thinking today when I was looking at some quotes. I was thinking, geez, has time changed?
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Well, let's go back to status quo. Ralph, do you want to go and explain your email, introduce it, and explain what it's about, just in case?
Well, yeah, obviously, I send out the email now to regards the previous program, and this one I targeted Tayeb Ali, that was my defence lawyer and senior partner at ITN Solicitors at the time, and to Michael O'Gara, who was going to be my defence lawyer in 2009. That was we found out that at the time, like we were speaking about it last week, at the time in 2009, that Richard Manning was actually working in the same practice as Michael O'Gara. And Michael O'Gara was quite happy to take my £5,000 deposit and say that he was going to defend me. And of course, Manning was the person that was defending Stephen Thomas when he lied in court in January 2007, knew about the situation with Stephen Thomas and Simon Thomas's son, and knew that Simon and Stephen Thomas were already hiding 3.5 million from Jane Thomas. So I directed it to them, and I just put, dear Tayeb Ali and Michael O'Gara, please can you tell everyone why you let my trial in early 2015 in the UK go ahead, when you both knew it was based on corrupt Cedric and my devious son Declan's narrative. Your word,
I didn't say Declan was a devious son.
No, I'm saying that, but you
This
said
is
the
the problem, right?
narrative.
This is the problem that I was saying before. Everybody's sending me emails saying the narrative and that sort of thing. Everybody's trying to be a smart ass all of a sudden. So yeah, but it is true though, isn't it?
Well, it was a narrative from January 2014, if you remember, because I was remanded conveniently, wasn't I? So that they could do the narrative. Anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to go off from what I was reading. So, some Declan's narrative from January 2014. John Jessup, Jane Snowball, who was my ex-wife, and I were all fully exonerated in Greece October 2013 for fraud and money laundering. After the lies and the assumptions about us in the Keir Starmer Sue Watt letter of request to Greece, February 2011.
Can I
And
just
since January,
pause? Can I just pause? Sorry to interrupt because I'll forget. Right. The something I suggested before is Stephen and Simon Thomas couldn't come to Crete because they would get arrested. And Jane Thomas reiterated that as well. And that's one of the elements, uh, effectively why the case fell apart as well.
okay, I don't think Simon Thomas would get arrested because
Right.
he
Okay.
wasn't part of the
When was the
trial.
last time
But
you
see,
saw Simon Thomas then?
when he was giving false testimony regards count 13 at Bradford Crown Court, where he said the 150,000 went into St George's and he gave it to his brother, who gave it for a Euro exchange to Hockley.
So do you
Saying
think
that
Stephen Thomas would get arrested?
well, he obviously he didn't turn up at the trial in 2013 because it was all again based on falsehoods.
But he's still got property there. I mean, how
Yeah,
did he get any return on investment there? Just out of interest.
I don't think that's part of their plan, is it really? I don't. All their four properties are next to mine in Almeida, and as far as I know, they're completely empty.
Right. Okay. Carry on. Sorry. Finish up.
Yeah. So back to Keir Starmer, Sue Watt's letter of request to Greece, February 2011, and since January 2012, at the latest, that Stephen Thomas was a self-confessed rapist, a liar under oath on the 2nd of the 1st, 2007, a child batterer, and along with his brother Simon, hid hundreds of thousands of pounds from Stephen's ex-wife Jane Thomas in 2006. So you've got me in a trial in Bradford. Tayab Ali is my solicitor partner that's going to defend me. You're not guilty. Been over to Greece, help me with the defence here in Crete. Michael O'Gara was the person that I first went to in September 2009. So they all, both these people, and all the other barristers, Grattich and Tarani, the Andrew West, the CPS lawyer, Suzanne Hoy, the CPS lawyer, if you like. Everybody that was involved in that court case were quite aware that I was in the dock, if you like. Absolutely knew about what I've just read out earlier. The only person that didn't know that my so-called defence was going to defend me was me and the jury, which I said last week.
Yeah. And you definitely did not know that you were a money laundering mule. Is your
Well, I'm certainly not one today. So,
no, I'm on about then.
well, never. I've never been I've never laundered money since I went into business at the age of
So
18.
in theory, right? So if Stephen Thomas come to you and said, "Look, I need to move all this money because I don't want to pay tax, and I don't want to pay Jane," and
Wait a minute. I didn't know Stephen Thomas, so he's not going to just turn up, is he?
whoever it was, Stephen or Simon or whatever.
Simon, yeah.
Yeah.
I knew Simon.
And none of them come to you and come up with this. Let's use your word,
No.
narrative, and said basically, I know it's my word, but it's not really my word. It's in the dictionary. But the point being that none of them come to you and basically said, "This is our plan," and will you execute it?
No. That's why Simon Thomas used me, because he knew that I was straight.
Yeah.
And he wouldn't, if he'd have come up and said that, he'd have just known the answer would have been no.
I have got a theory in my mind because I kind of believe you. And I got a theory in my mind which we'll try and discuss on this episode of if it is true what you just said to me of how clever these people are to carry out what they did is just mind-boggling, but it could be quite true. The
It's contact.
Yeah, 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 but I just don't know how they had so much control.
I built Simon Thomas a house for 300,000 that he sold for nearly 500,000 5 years later.
Mm.
Okay, that's nothing to do, I suppose, with the gift that they got from the father or whatever. I mean, Howard Tellings gave me 1 million, and I did invest it. There was no crime against them. It was all a devious plan by Simon because as he'd known me for 20 years, he could totally trust me, and he bought out my ex-partner Hugh Clark Williams, which was Cut and Life at the time, with 800,000, and because he wanted me to, well, I'd never met Stephen, for Stephen to come, and it was very handy for the family, wasn't it, at that time?
Yeah, I mean the way I kind of see it is that I mean I just don't know how you could have this meeting to come up with this scheme, basically with them. I've never experienced anything like this, to be honest. And I know some very, let's use your word again, devious people. I don't really associate with them, but I know them. The is that how this could basically pass so many checks and balances to get to this point. But what I will say is that and I'll go back to what I said previously, is that it's exciting getting lots of money, isn't it, Ralph? And to know you've got investors there and you can go and do deals and all that sort of stuff.
I've had retail carpet shops where we've dealt with, okay, not the money we were talking about here, but my carpet companies were turning over back in the starting from very small turnovers, and we ended up doing like nearly $1 million a year. So I was quite used to dealing with money, and people seem to think that because you're dealing with large amounts of money, it's harder than dealing with smaller amounts of money. It's actually easier to deal with larger amounts of money.
It is true. That's true. That's so true. I mean, when I used to go to banks for money, they said, "You're not asking for enough. Come back and ask for more."
Yeah,
yeah, it's true.
I based it all. I went to Bradford Business University and did a year's course or something like that in 1999, exactly about what we're talking about. And I knew that once I got over the 10 million mark in Greece, that this is too much for an individual to deal with. You know, you're building the houses, you're going onto the plus market, you're doing hotels, you're getting grants and all that. And I just knew, right, okay, this is the stage, 10 million. I can't deal with this anymore. I need to now expand and get the likes of Darren Brown, who's the person that books on the plus market. I need to get the nomads in London involved. I need top class lawyers involved. I need accountants involved. So this was the next stage. And anybody in any university would say, okay, you can do your carpet businesses and you can go to your million, you can go to 5 million. But when you get above that point between 5 and 10, no individual can really do that. And bear in mind, we're talking about the hotel sites that we had here, the grants that we had that Sue Watt was doing. So at the stage in 2009, we were perfectly set to do exactly what we were going to do. We didn't expect that Simon and Stephen Thomas's dad would die and they would have this tax bill of over 40% of the 7 million that they're being left. And this is what cocked it all up.
I just want to caveat something I just said there, right? The bank managers didn't say to me, come back and ask for more money. What they said was, the schemes that you're giving us is too small, basically. They said they were willing to work with me, but they were just too small. I just want to caveat that because I was thinking about that.
You've got to look at my son Declan, who we gave 25 grand to in January 2011 to go into the flooring trade. And I don't know anything about his business, really, apart from that him and Cameron in 2017 gleefully visited me in prison, saying that they'd just won they're in the top 30 entrepreneurs in the whole of Europe under 30 years old. So they've done and they were only like 24 at that time, and they were in the top 30 business people in the whole of Europe.
I didn't realise there's a lot of money in carpets, isn't there?
Well, there's carpets and flooring of wood. Yeah.
No, I didn't
It's
know
big.
that. I
Yeah.
didn't know that.
But Declan, you see, he knew what model I was setting up here because he's working with me. Once you get to this, anybody in business would say, when you get to 5'10", you've got to do something. You've got to bring in outside sources and protect it, even though it's yours. But Peter Morris, who's the chairman of Howard Tennants, he came over here a couple of times, and he was one of my mentors about it. And then Pat Brown suddenly turns up as a prosecution witness at Bradford and gets me 7 years. It's like I've just had everything kind of chopped off when I knew exactly what I was doing. And now I'm back here in 2026 and just going down the same route of what I should have been allowed to do then.
Yeah, I mean, we've established there's clear evidence that the police dismantled your business with their cohort, the Thomases, and that other woman, I can't remember her name, Susan.
Yeah.
All right, we've got 10 minutes, Ralph. Do you want to move on to this next document you want to talk about?
Yeah, because where we left off last week, we were talking about Cedric's timeline, where he was calling Richard Holmes. The title was "Why Richard Holmes, other than the police, are the reasons for your Cretan investments being placed in jeopardy."
So he actually prepared this on the 7th of January 2012, yeah?
Yeah, and we read out, let's say, half of it last week, and so I think we need to continue this, but of course there's some more developments that we need to move on later. But okay, yeah. So we had that question. The question is, how did DC Skidmore know about the meeting in Athens with Ralph and Benedict Clark? I had only told O'Gara, who's my lawyer. Mr. Clark had told me he didn't tell anyone else. My suspicion is that Mr. O'Gara has compromised his professional relationship with Ralph, which is perfectly true, because the only person I had to ask O'Gara, because he was going to be my defending lawyer. I'm going to meet him because Benedict Clark's a great friend. This is all nonsense, what's going on, and I need to secure their money. And so I met Benedict in Athens on the 15th of December 2009, and we were just like 10 minutes away from signing the deal, and Benedict Clark's mobile goes, and it's DC Skidmore on the phone. So there's no doubt about it. O'Gara must have told Skidmore that Ralph's meeting Benedict to tie some land over. And of course, Skidmore was told Benedict that if he took this land, he would be accepting proceeds of crime. So Benedict backed out. This is the same land that Peter Morris, the CEO of Howard Tennants, took into his name on the 31st of January, 1 month later. No phone call then. So
yeah. All right, okay, so let's go through it. I'll let you talk, and you can just explain it element if you want to.
Okay, so Cedric's writing again on the 2nd of July 2010. I contacted DC Skidmore. I told him that I suspected that Mr. O'Gara was compromising his professional relationship with Ralph. I asked him not to contact Mr. O'Gara anymore about the case regarding Ralph. On the 24th of November 2010, Ralph emails DC Skidmore and copies in D.I. Taylor. In the email, he wrote, "Please can you refrain from any contact with O'Gara's solicitors in relation to my case, as we are instructing another company." Despite this clear instruction, on the 25th of November 2010, DC Skidmore replied, "I have informed your lawyer of record that your bail is to be extended. The new bail date is the 8th of June 2011, and the times are for you 11 o'clock and your wife at 12 o'clock the same day. Your colleague, John Jessup, is bailed to the following day, the 9th of June 2011 at 11 o'clock. All this information has been forwarded for the attention of your lawyer of record, Mr. O'Gara. Further to that, the relevant bail forms have been sent to him for your information and for forwarding for your information. So here Cedric has written to Skidmore in July saying that I'm not dealing with O'Gara anymore. He's not my lawyer and all the rest of it. 6 months earlier. Now we know that the only way that the deal with Benedict Clark stopped was because of the phone call from Skidmore to Benedict Clark on the 15th of December 2009. So there's clear, why is Skidmore communicating with O'Gara when Cedric has clearly given him instructions not to communicate with him? So Cedric, this is Cedric's writing, and he goes on, Ralph and I was totally shocked. DC Skidmore and his supervisors were aware of our beliefs of a compromise regarding O'Gara and the associated safety concerns. Yet Skidmore had ignored Ralph Clear's instructions, let alone my alert to him in July. On the 30th of November 2010, Ralph spoke to DC Skidmore on the telephone, which I did for about 40 minutes. I can remember the phone call. Ralph explained that there was a setup by Richard Holmes. I don't think I did say that, but and told him he believed O'Gara was potentially involved. So we're going back to Cedric's paranoia here about Richard Holmes, and Richard Holmes was a person that he said was a devious individual that was doing mortgage frauds with Yale, which was all completely nonsense. So, okay, so this is Cedric's writing, so he's blaming Richard Holmes again, and Richard Holmes recommended O'Gara. So that's where we are. So on the 2nd of December 2010, Ralph answered a phone call from Michael O'Gara in my presence. I can't remember that, but it must be true. He's written it. O'Gara asked Ralph why he didn't require his services anymore. Ralph explained that DC Skidmore had just called him, stating this. Ralph answered the questions as best he could. So, why Skidmore there? He's gone and rung O'Gara and says you're not Ralph's solicitor anymore. Well, Skidmore knew that from 6 months earlier. So then, after Skidmore's rung O'Gara's then ringing me saying, "Why am I not your solicitor anymore?"
Oh, really?
Bear in mind that Richard Manning's working in the same office.
How did that happen?
How does that?
How did that happen? That he just suddenly said, "Why am I not your solicitor anymore?"
Well, I'd informed O'Gara he wasn't my solicitor, and Cedric had told Skidmore in July, and that was it. But because of this, they're in cahoots, aren't they? You've got to bear in mind Richard Manning is still working in the same office as O'Gara because he's joined his company, and O'Gara is the one that knows that Stephen Thomas is a rapist. He knows that he'd raped Simon Thomas's son at 2.5 years old, and he knew that the Thomases were hiding 3.5 million in Crete from Jane Thomas, using me as a unwitting mule.
Just out of interest, how much capital do you reckon they have, or assets they have in Crete at the moment? Just roughly.
Well, they've got a mill. They've got 1 million, and I helped them open bank accounts. It was with the Bank of Cyprus at the time. After Brian had died, Geraldine, who's the mother, and Stephen came over, and I opened bank accounts for them to put money in. I can't remember the year, and that went into the Bank of Cyprus. Well, Bank of Cyprus went in the collapse of whenever 2010, say.
Yeah, 2010, yeah, roughly when. That was
he took over. It was taken over by Piraeus Bank, and I think that the Thomases then moved their money with the Bank of Cyprus to Limassol. Because you could either leave your money with the Bank of Cyprus, which was taken over by Piraeus, or because it was the Bank of Cyprus, you could go back and you could take the money to Cyprus. And I think that's the way that Geraldine is the mother, and she's probably still alive actually. And Stephen and Simon then took their money there, and I can remember actually finding, I can actually find the Bank of Limassol where they actually took their money to. I can't remember the story about how I actually found that out, but I was in Cyprus in 2019, I think it was, and
I don't think I've
so
ever been to Cyprus. I've never been to Crete before meeting you. So I've never been to Cyprus. Maybe I should put it on my bucket list. We need to go to a break.
Good idea. Yeah, okay. Okay, well, I heard on one of your podcasts that you like Michael Jackson, so I've gone for Michael Jackson.
I do. I'd say just a quick one. What's your opinion of Michael Jackson?
Well, I once watched him in Roundy Park in Leeds, where Cedric was a patrolling officer in the grounds, and Michael Jackson was singing. I can't remember the year. That's 1988, something like that. Yes, I mean, you don't know these people, do you? So it's hard to have an opinion on people that's just in the media all the time. But I probably, I don't know, brothers. You only know people when you really meet them, don't you?
Yeah, quite. Obviously, I've never met him. I think he's a victim, not just of his death, anyway, because that's been proven in court, but a victim of corporate manslaughter in some way, shape, or form. Anyway, let's be positive because I'm a massive fan of his music.
Yeah, of course.
What song do you want to play?
I Am Bad. Who is really bad? The only bad people here is Simon and Stephen Thomas. So
this is dedicated to them, yeah?
Yeah.
All right.
Because I'm not bad.
So Simon and Stephen, this is for you.
You are bad.
Let's play this now.
Hey, you right, just show your face, broad daylight. I'm telling you on how I feel, gonna hit your mind. Don't you dare jump on, get on me, alright. I'm getting you on count of 3. Just show your stuff. Let it be. I'm telling you, just watch your mouth. I know your game, what you're about. When they say the sky's the limit, to me this really true. My friend, you have seen nothing. There's a way to I can do because I'm bad. I'm bad. Jump on. You know I'm bad. I'm bad. You know it. You know I'm bad. I'm bad. Jump on. You know. And the whole world has to answer right now to tell you once again who's bad.
Okay, that was bad from Michael Jackson. I've not heard that in a long time, actually. He's got so many great songs. So let's move on with what we were discussing there, Ralph.
Yeah, we're back to this email, this letter timeline from Cedric. Okay, so O'Gara has since suggested in an email that there is a conflict of interest between John Jessup and Ralph, and asked for a bad character reference made. We mentioned that in the previous program, didn't we?
Yeah.
Reading the interviews of both Ralph and John Jessup, there's no conflict at all in their accounts until D.I. Taylor tells John Jessup some information that is wholly inaccurate. I can't remember what that is, but obviously the officer in charge, D.I. Taylor, said something to John in one of his interviews. This scenario indicates the desperation of West Yorkshire Police in discrediting Ralph. They were playing every trick in the book to no avail, and used Richard Holmes and now O'Gara into setting up Ralph. These are tactics normally reserved for tackling serious organised criminals. I have seen no indication from the papers in Ralph's case that Ralph is such a criminal. He is a businessman going about his legitimate business in another country. The police action must have been based on malicious intelligence from persons protecting their own interests, i.e. Richard Holmes and others, to be revealed after Ralph's trial with Mr. Benedict Clark in April 2013.
Yeah, I mean, this is nuts, isn't it? This is actually insanity. Then Cedric goes on to be a prosecution witness. You can't make this shit up.
Yeah.
Anyway, carry on.
He's calling me a businessman going about his legitimate business in another country, which is exactly what I'm doing now.
Well, he's giving justifications and that sort of stuff. And then flips. But you know, I got told off for saying a naughty word the other day by the station manager. But anyway, I don't care. Your brother's a scumbag.
Okay. I am now aware that Keir Starmer, David Levy, head of the Prosecution's Advocacy Central Fraud Group London, sent a letter to the competent judicial authorities on the island of Crete on Friday, the 11th of February 2011. Ralph had first been interviewed regarding Crete in July 2009. He has been under investigation prior to that date. Well, Cedric had been under prior investigation since October 2008 as well. To send such a letter so long after the investigation started beggars belief. Most of the letter of request is based on the falsehoods and assumptions of Stephen Thomas to D.I. Taylor in June 2009. There are 3 falsehoods about me. From papers disclosed, there is very little prosecution material that has been gathered at all in 19 months. So that's Cedric speaking about that at that period of time. He's mentioning 19 months, little evidence gathered. Lo and behold, Cedric comes over to Crete with Declan, April 2014, and rather than the one Benedict Clark count that he's speaking about here, there's suddenly another 18 created by Cedric. The date of Mr. Levy's letter is of great significance. 1 week after the undercover police operation against Ralph and me. I don't know what that was. I didn't. The police had realised that their investigations and entrapment methods in the UK against Ralph and me had failed, and they had to make inquiries in Crete. The police should have sent the letter within weeks of Ralph's interviews in 2009. I have travelled abroad to conduct investigations in my career. Those were done within a reasonable time, and not 19 months after the investigations became relevant. Police investigations must be conducted expeditiously to comply with the Police and Criminal Evidence Act.
Mm.
You can't make this up, can you? Then, lo and behold, 2 years later after this, Cedric has got me remanded in the UK, come over here and done his investigations with Declan, and then put me in prison.
Yeah, there's a thing called rights to a speedy trial and stuff like that. But I'm not, I'm not too sure how often that's applied. But if you go to going back to Greenpeace case, 5 years before they waited to go and ambush them.
Yeah, I think there was quite a long delay though before they suddenly thought that there might be criminal activity there.
Yeah, 5 years. 5 years.
Yeah, well, I've been on bail. I was on bail from July 2009. Went through the Greek trial here that the West Yorkshire Police, as Cedric has said here, instigated with a Keir Starmer letter and whatever. Gone through that trial, come back to the UK, still on bail for another 18 months, and then put in front of a judge based on evidence provided as part of the evidence.
On this basis, though, right, you can clearly see here, right, as further evidence. It's not the only example, but further evidence, basically, where Cedric has been got to and said, unless you, go to prosecution witness, we're going to go after you. But what Cedric could have said, well, no, I'm going to basically stand by everything I've written and said to you guys as well. And if you do not do the right thing, I'm going to come after you. But he didn't. He wimped out.
I don't think you can do that in the police force.
Because the system is bigger than someone like Cedric and yourself.
Well, yeah, we've read out in previous shows how that he wanted Norman Betterson and Bottomley and Chris Rowley, Parkinson, to all be done for the way they treated him in the undercover operations in trying to criminalise him. But the thing is, they probably had a right to criminalise Cedric because, as we know, he's confessed to being a criminal.
Yeah, he's confessed to it. Yeah, but it's low standard confession in all fairness. But here, right, there's no explanation so far, this is in the paperwork that I've seen, to why he changed his opinion.
I know why he changed. We spoke about it again last week. He was blackmailed by Chris Rowley under the official.
But no, what I mean is we've got nothing so far that I've read in writing that what was the catalyst? What was the timeline? Where did the change happen? The
change happened after I was not guilty in Crete, brothers.
You what, sir?
The change happened as soon as I was found not guilty by the 3 judges in Crete. Cedric realised that he was investigated before me, which he was, September 2008, over his Zakros involvement or over his claiming staff taking more money than they should do and miscounting of the drug money, which we spoke about in previous programs. So it changed because I'm not guilty in Greece. He's then got to go back to the UK. He's still under investigation. I'm exonerated here. And they basically said to Cedric, well, you're going to lose your pension. You're going to go to prison for the rest of your life. You'll never see your children again, what have you. And the only way out is if you get some evidence on Ralph. Well, the evidence he got on Ralph was falsified, which we've again exposed in previous programs.
So was these emails presented in the court?
No. Anything to do? No, because it's part of the narrative, isn't it?
It pains me whenever I hear that now because I get so many people say that to me all the time. But no, you're right. It's true. It's part of the narrative. Yeah.
Yeah. I told Tirani, I'm having big fights with Tirani and Grattage. Every night we'd go across to the hotel where I was staying. We'd have an hour's meeting. Cedric can't be mentioned. Stephen Thomas can't be mentioned. Jane Thomas can't be mentioned. And you just think, well, why not? They started it. I didn't.
How far down are you now on this, Ralph?
Okay.
Trying to follow you.
Okay, so we're going now So Cedric's got concerns about DC Glen Acornley. Now, bear in mind, Glen Acornley was a cadet with Cedric, a good friend of mine, introduced to many friends of ours over the years, like Richard Holmes and a good friend of not Stephen Thomas, of Alistair Bateman and what have you, and a police officer for 20 odd years, 30 years in West Yorkshire. Much of socialising with
Just while I'm trying to find this, yeah, I've just gone back to the conclusion from Cedric at the bottom. Wow. So wait out, listeners, to what Cedric says at the bottom. I'm just trying to find. I'm just trying to find where you are, Ralph.
Okay, well, I'll read on. Concerns about DC Glen Acornley, Cedric's best friend. I was at training school with Glenn in 1981. Cedric was 16 at that time, or maybe 18, and we had I've been very good friends over many years. I have attended his weddings. I am godfather to his son, and I was only one of only two friends at his father's funeral. So my doctor, which was Dr. Spain, had advised me to speak to people about issues I was facing when I was on sick leave from the police in April 2009 due to the stress of the anti-corruption operation against me. Because Glenn was one of my closest friends, I decided that I would take him into my confidence. Glenn was also very friendly with Richard Holmes. Both lived in Ilkley and would socialise together. Glenn was aware of Richard Holmes' rape case. Richard Holmes, Alistair Bateman, myself, and one other good friend, a retired police officer, were invited to Glenn's last wedding in September 2007. Alistair Bateman was the best man. Throughout my problems at work and the investigations into Ralph, I maintained regular contact with Glenn. I was open and honest with Glenn. I had nothing to hide. It was Glenn who told me many things about Richard Holmes. He told me that Richard Holmes was involved in a proposed deal to sell land in Ilkley to Simon Morris, who was the ex-Leeds United director, that David Cockshott, who was exchanging money with Stephen Thomas, was going out with Holmes' sister, that Cockshott had lots of money and no one knew where it came from, that Richard Holmes and O'Gara were very close friends. On the 5th of November 2011, I had a meal with Glenn. During the meal, I told Glenn that I believed Richard Holmes was a police informant. The Chiz, we spoke about this before, didn't we? On Thursday, the 8th of November 2011, Ralph called me and told me that I'd just spoken to Richard Holmes. He had told Holmes that I believed that he was behind all the problems we had faced. Holmes had denied this. So I've called Richard and said, Cedric, my brother, is saying that you're the problem with Richard. And Richard's top 5 friends at the time, if not even higher. Mm. And so I said to Richard, Cedric thinks you're a chiz and what have you, and blah, 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 and all that. So this is Cedric's writing again. I wanted to see Stephen Thomas. Sorry, I missed a script.
I decided that.
Yeah, I decided that I had to act pretty quickly. This is Cedric. I needed to see Stephen Thomas and Richard Holmes to get their accounts. I drove over towards Ilkley, and on my way, I called Glenn. I needed somebody there who I could trust. I would not see Holmes on my own because I did not trust him. I told Glenn my intentions, that I was going to also to see Thomas to get to the bottom of everything. He told me that he was working for Richard Holmes that day. That's Glenn, not Thomas. So remember, we did the doorstep interview with. Yeah. This is all the same time, brother. So it's all falling into place. I wanted to see Stephen Thomas because, as far as Ralph was concerned, he believes Stephen Thomas was the cause of all his problems in Crete. Because after committing more money, he suddenly backed out and demanded all his money back. I wanted to find out why Stephen Thomas suddenly had a change of heart. Was it something he was being told by Richard Holmes? Well, Richard Holmes and Stephen Thomas don't even know each other. And of course, we know all about the side of what Stephen Thomas has done and what have you. In addition, Stephen Thomas is represented legally by Alistair Bateman, a criminal Bradford solicitor defender. They are long-term friends and golfing partners. In April 2009, I told Glenn about and he's put in brackets, false and unestablished, believed, manufactured by the police, suggestion that Ralph was laundering drugs money. Glenn is also a close friend of Bateman. Bateman, Thomas, and Glenn are all...
Pause. I've never heard him before during this series about drugs money.
Well, we read it out earlier up in the timeline, didn't we? On this timeline last week, where Cedric was approached by DC Little saying that he was investigating somebody called Ralph in Crete to Cedric. And Cedric said, well, you have to stop there because you could be talking about my brother. Not that there's many Ralphs in Crete. So he was obviously talking about my brother. And DC Little then associated... there was three names, wasn't there? There was Tony Wormold, there was Paul Walker, and I can't remember who the third was.
Do you know what I'm thinking right here, right? Because it's quite a long document, right? I wonder the reason, the motive behind it, yeah, is clearly not to defend you, yeah, is to defend himself, Cedric.
Well, we know that now, don't we?
Yeah, that's what that's what I'm getting from this now. Based on what I know, it's got nothing to do with you, Ralph. It's to defend him.
Yeah. And Cedric retired in 7 months before he wrote this. And he had to defend me to protect himself. And then when I got not guilty in Greece, the only person that was unhappy in that courtroom, bear in mind it was full, my other brothers was there, many supporters were there. The only person that was unhappy was Cedric. And he left that courthouse that day and went straight back to England. He didn't come to the prison to welcome me out or anything like that. My other brothers did. Yeah, so he's realised that because then I didn't get put down. He's up a gum tree himself. And then, of course, later on, he's blackmailed by Rowley and Lawrenson and Taylor and Romana Senior to do the dirty on me. Yeah.
Yeah. This is about him, but if you read it, it's about you. This is actually about him.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, carry on.
Okay, so you cut me off from mid-sentence.
I speculate that Glenn told Bateman.
Okay, yeah, thank you. I speculated that Glenn told Bateman, Alistair Bateman. Bateman told Thomas, and Thomas panicked because of the drug suggestion and demanded his money back from RJC. Subsequently, the knock-on effects has been catastrophic for everyone with any interest in Crete. If this is the case, the origins of this fiasco lie solely with the incompetent law enforcement agencies who have been duped by serious and organised multi-million-pound fraudsters. Well,
so is he talking about the Thomases here?
Well, I don't think he is at that stage because we didn't know that was their narrative, was it, to hide the money from...
I'd love it how you keep on mentioning narrative.
The word was until you sent me that diagram, and it's perfectly...
Yeah.
Start calling you narrative brothers.
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay.
So Cedric's still blaming multi-million-pound fraudsters like the guy who was the son-in-law of Eccleston, and Simon Morris, the Leeds United director, for ruining his career. But of course, we now know that Cedric was corrupt at this time. But again, we're back to Bradford Golf Club, aren't we? I mean, Glenn... I don't think Glenn was close to Stephen Thomas at all, but Bateman and Thomas were very, very close, and Glenn and Bateman were very, very close. I've been to weddings where Bateman was the best man to Glenn, and at Glenn's wedding, and Cedric's been there. So, but there was no sign of the Thomases. But this goes back to the problem that Alistair Bateman's wife is a CPS lawyer, Suzanne Hoy.
That's something I want to explore, actually, because there's something that Miss Thomas mentioned. And she said that he has a lot to answer for, but we need to discuss that at the
Well,
moment we're dealing
can
with.
you believe it that Suzanne Hoy's brother
Mm.
is a police officer that worked with Cedric?
I can believe anything nowadays, Ralph, to be honest.
Yeah. So you've got Alistair Bateman. Well, yeah, but all I'm doing is business correctly in Crete.
Yeah.
And I've suddenly been caught up in all
So
this.
did you have a relationship with Alistair Bateman in any way, shape, or form? Not physical.
No, no, Alistair. I've carpeted 3 or 4 houses for him over the years. I can't really remember his wife, but she'll have been there because the fitters are going into the house or she's picking the carpets. So I must have sold the carpets at some point. I can't remember at all, but Alistair, of course, I knew Alistair because
Was he a
he
close
used
friend?
no, not a close friend at all, but he used to come to some dinners that I attended, and I can remember turning up on 10K races, and he would be there. And we've been to the wedding of Glen Acornley where he was the best man. But he was just like,
What's 10K races at, like horse racing?
no, where you run yourself 10 kilometers.
Oh, I see, running, yeah. Yeah, okay, good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, well, I
sorry.
used to do a lot of that, and there was a lot around Hillclear. Hey, Alistair, how are you? And was set off. I think he was always quicker than me, so I didn't know him, and of course, I didn't realise how close he was to Alistair Bateman. But again, I haven't committed any crimes against Stephen or Simon Thomas, so this is back to now how we're finding out about their contacts and their wealth, if you like.
So I think they're quite
That's
wealthy, aren't they?
Well, they sold the business to Victoria Carpets in December 2013 for 15 million. And then I think the mills they had in Cleckheaton, and I think they got 45 million for. Whether you call that wealthy or not, I don't know.
I think that's pretty wealthy, to be fair.
Well,
The
yeah, that's the problem, isn't it? The rich they don't get convicted.
Yeah, on the point of like running and that sort of stuff, how's your leg now?
I'm fine. Well, I go to the gym quite regular, and then yeah, no, my legs are fine. I think. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, when I met you, you were just as bad as me because I was haven't. Um, when I was wearing trainers beforehand, the week before, with no socks on, and they sweat, don't they? And they cut your feet open. So I was stupid. So I actually, no, in all honesty, Ralph, I was coming out in sympathy with you. That's what was happening. We looked like a pair of, I don't know, disabled people.
Yeah. I mean, I'm 65 now, and part things are not going to quite work as well as you expect in the body. But
All right, let's crack on with this then. Carry on.
okay, so okay, I drove on the 8th of the 11th, 2011 to Stephen Thomas's house in Menson. There were 2 cars in the driveway. I knocked on the door, but there was no answer. I revisited 2 more times over the next hour or so, but there was no answer. Both
Well,
homes.
did Cedric live near Ralph? Sorry,
No,
near Stephen
no,
Thomas.
he lived at Ripon.
How
He's
far is that?
doing
How far is that away?
Ripon to Menston will be 30 miles and not easy roads.
Right. Okay. And I'm assuming Cedric had Stephen Thomas's number, right?
Well, we read out in the interview, did we? Stephen Thomas said to Cedric, how do you know where I live? And Cedric said that doesn't really matter. I'm not here for any other reasons and what have you. So I think Cedric found out where he lived. I never knew where Stephen Thomas lived in the UK. So
Mm.
he may have got it from Jane Thomas because she was on board at this time. I don't know, to be fair, but police can do anything, can't they, if they want?
Yeah, they
They
can.
just knocked on the door
The
as a civilian, and
so even though you had an investor, did you not have to get their address and ID and all that sort of stuff?
even though
You get an investor on board, say Stephen Thomas, yeah. Do you not have to get their ID and address and all that sort of stuff to prove where the money's coming from?
well, I mean it was never a doubt. I'd known Simon Thomas since 1982. So And I mean, it's like saying, do Tesco's know where the money comes from in their supermarket every day?
But the okay, all right, I've just thought of another question then. So you're not going to answer that one, I can tell. All right.
No, I'm not hiding anything, but the
But
Tesco's ask every day where people buy cabbages and lettuces and milk, where their money comes from. It's not your job to ask a, a customer where their money comes from.
yeah, we're not talking about like a £1 cabbage or something like that, are we? Now, okay, fine. The did the banks ever say to you where did this money come from?
Well, that's a very good question because um, HSB, as it was known at the time, was called the World Bank. And I'd done lots of all my accounts were in HSBC in Wakefield, and my carpet businesses with the turnovers, and my personal bank accounts were with them. And I went to HSBC in Athens thinking it was the World Bank. That I've got a businesses in the carpet business. I've got there. I'd like to open an account here because because what I'm doing now is going to go worldwide or cross border. So it didn't quite work like that. I said, no, you can't just open an account here. I said, well, I've got this company in Crete, Verona. All these people are giving me all this money. I was dealing like 50, 60,000 a week from the UK because I'm building houses.
What
So,
from different people?
yeah, of
Right.
course, because if you're building houses for people, it costs money.
Yeah,
But you
no,
have
I
to drip
understand that.
feed the builders. So you drip feed the builders. You can't just pay the builders everything in one go, can you? Or ask the client. So it was done in stages. Simon Thomas's house was done in stages where money was paid over because it's a new build.
That's the same as the UK's, don't worry.
Yeah. But so all I did was all I could do was say, like, okay, Simon, okay, your house is at this stage, send 60 grand, send in the pictures. He put 60 grand into my HSBC account in Wakefield, but I couldn't open the business account over here. I couldn't put it through Veron, the company. So all I would do is Stephen or Simon's Thomas or whoever it was, it could have been Jeff Brown, I'm building houses, Nigel Smiles, Hugh Clark William. All you can do is, okay, put it into my personal account in HSBC in Wakefield. I'll send it to Worldwide Currencies. I'll send it to my account in Hanya. I'll take it out in cash and I'll pay the builders. Exactly what I explained to the police in the interview on the 31st of July 2009. So my personal account, it ended up turning over like 5-6 million in like 3 years, but there was no other way of doing it. I went to the HSBC bank manager and at the time, and I said to him, look, all this money is going through and what have you. We need to find another way because I've spoken to HSBC in Athens, and they can't do it this way. So all these meetings were going on with banks because I knew that people were giving me large amounts of money to build houses. My end goal was to make sure that somebody had a villa here that they could live in, or their investments would have been successful. So there was no, if people were giving me all this money, and if I was a criminal, I'd have just taken all the money and gone to Guatemala.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Fine. Going back to my previous question, when you onboarded clients, then did you ever take any documents from them, ID or whatever it may be, or was it all done on kind of a handshake and that sort of stuff?
Well, I've never taken ID or documents off people that have wanted to buy things off me.
Okay, that was a question. That's all.
Yeah, why
Oh,
would I? If somebody wants to buy something off you, you've got something they want.
no. If they're investing in something, it's slightly different, though, isn't it, Ralph?
The 40 people that invested in the Placius Palace project, they mainly were people that had known me for 20 years.
I mean, one thing I will say, right, I can sense you're nervous. One thing I will say, all these people in your email list every week. But yeah, let's move on. But so the answer is no, you did not take identification from any of your investors. Is that right?
No, I don't think I would do tomorrow.
Okay. Yeah. Right. Okay, cool.
Business, isn't it?
Let's move on with your the next section.
Okay, I think I'm at the right place. I mean, my well-considered view is that Richard Holmes and Glenn were engaged in a last-ditch attempt to sway my view that Richard Holmes was a police informant, a very dangerous police informant. On Tuesday, the
My
6th
well pause 1 second. My well-considered view is that RH and Glenn were engaged in a last-ditch effort to sway my view. Who's RH? Who's that?
Richard Holmes, one of my best mates of 20 years.
He's accused of being a very dangerous police informant.
Well, it's this, yeah, he's the chiz, isn't he, that we've spoken about in previous programs. I mean, I've spoken to Richard 2 or 3 times every week. He's a very good friend.
What does he say about that, though? Have you asked him about that?
Well, I've asked him about it many times over the last 2
And
or 3
what's
years.
his response?
Well, it's just laughable.
Okay, fine.
Totally laughable. It's just not a police informant. I mean,
Well-considered view. Why is he focused on him then?
because of his paranoia that he was diagnosed with in
What was the
2000.
word you used to use for him? What was it called again? I've never heard of it.
Well, that was morbid jealousy.
That's it. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
But that's against me because I'm his brother.
Yeah, that's very strange.
Paranoia is against Richard Holmes. Richard Holmes is not a chiz. It's factual. He might have recommended Michael O'Gara, but that I would have think been done in innocence. Didn't know Richard Manning was working with O'Gara from 2008. I think right up till the end of 2025 when O'Gara had the conviction of what we read out last week.
All right, we've only got 5 minutes to the next break, Ralph.
Okay. So so on the Tuesday, the 6th of December, 2011, I visited Stephen Thomas's at his house. I was talking to him for about an hour, which we've read out the transcript. I also
was that the audio?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
Full program on it. Yeah.
So, listeners, go back to the previous episode. You'll have to pick it up. But there was an audio, and it was very interesting, to say the least.
Ben Coppers asking a self-confessed rapist.
It was the most bizarre sort of conversation I've ever heard. I think possibly, but maybe not. But it's up there anyway.
Yeah, I asked on numerous occasions why Stephen Thomas had suddenly been of the view that Ralph had ripped him off. Stephen continually refused to say why he had reached that conclusion. I wonder why he is protecting people when he may have been carefully manipulated by others, or maybe it does not appreciate how malicious some people can be, or who is telling the truth.
This makes no sense whatsoever. It makes no sense. It's like word salad. This is.
Yeah.
The
But
who
then
did he actually send this to?
Everybody.
Really?
Yeah.
Who's everybody?
Well, he was probably the shareholder, the same people, probably 30% of the people I'm sending your program out to every week.
Wow.
So Cedric now says, rest assured, criminals will go to any lengths to prevent exposure and the potential for the recovery of their ill-gotten proceeds of crime. The police will also go to any lengths to present reputational damage to themselves as individuals or the organisation.
I agree with both of that, yeah. But what is that doing in this document?
Well, we know Cedric's a self-confessed criminal, don't we now? We know that Chris Rowell became the CC of Lancashire Police.
It makes
was
no
about
sense.
the blackmail Cedric.
It makes no sense. Makes no sense. What is, well, apart from what I've already come to my conclusion, he's trying to protect himself. But this makes zero sense. Makes him look like a nut job.
But he's saying criminal. Cedric is a criminal because he's self-confessed to it. Police will go to any lengths to present reputational damage. That was Chris Rowley, who was head of protection of the police that we've read out before, and it's all about Chris Rowley and Cedric when Cedric's blackmailed in March 2014.
Oh my days! He goes on to about Hillsborough now. Jeez. All right.
So
on that note, let's go to a music break.
Okay. We're going to. I think dear old Bonnie Tyler's in a bit of a predicament, isn't she? So I'd like to sing a song.
About Billy.
Bonnie.
Bunny. All right. Okay.
Bonnie Tyler.
Bunny.
Yeah, and the song is "I Climb Every Mountain."
All right, let's play that. No.
She's going through a lot at the moment, and I've climbed mountains, and the higher the mountain, the greater the reward.
Have you actually climbed a mountain?
Many.
Have you?
The whole of Operation Langan is a mountain.
I mean, a physical mountain.
Yeah, of course. Many mountains here. Philarites, I've shown you. Being up there, the White Mountains in Hanya, of course.
Okay. Just a side note. You're gonna have to repeat the song because I need to when I add it in. The how's your walking football going?
Well, I've stopped playing because there's no teams down here, but that was more in the north of Crete.
Oh, okay.
We've got lots of hits on that video that we did.
I find it quite fascinating. The one of my I don't know if I told you, the blind presenter Ray Clements, he said he finds it too boring.
Walking football.
Yeah, walking football. Yeah, he's blind, and he's a presenter on radio. And I asked him about it. I said, "Have you ever tried walking football?" He said it's too boring. He needs more like impact and intensity and that sort of stuff. Anyway, but he's an amazing guy. That man is. Anyway, can you just repeat the song just for the sake of the edit, so I can add it in at the end?
Can I send it to you, the link?
No, I mean just say it now, just so I can.
Okay. Yeah, Bonnie Tyler. I climbed every mountain.
All right, we're going to play that now.
Paradise is you, my love, with you by my side, now until forever, till the end of time. I've wished upon 1,000 stars, someday you might find I'm living for you, baby, you'll always be mine. I'm searching for you, baby, drowning in your love. No, I'll never give it up. Oh, I'll climb every mountain and I'll cross every sea to lay in your arms for eternity. Sail every ocean to capture your heart, to be in your arms, never to be apart. I'll climb every mountain to be with you. I'll cross every sea to be with you. I'm here for you, darling. You belong to me. Since you won my heart, my love, I've never been the same. I need your love to feed it like a flower needs the rain. Some things they will never change, baby, no, it's true. I live for you only, it's all that I can do. Waiting for you, baby, hungry for your love. No, I'll never get enough.
Dreamcatcher Radio is about capturing and creating dreams through music, chat, and debate. Empowering expression, enriching society. A go-to place for unsigned musical talent. A radio station which listens to its audience. Free speech, vibrant, engaging. Stream worldwide 24/7. Events, competitions, promotions. Always keen to have a listening ear. Contact us. hello@dreamcatcherradio.com.
Dreamcatcher Radio.
Okay, that was Billy Tyler, I Claim Every Mountain. What a lovely, lovely song. Now, let's carry on, Ralph.
Okay, so we're now down to where Cedric is writing, consider Hillsborough and the well-founded allegations against Sir Norman Bettison. The same person is the Chief Constable of West Yorkshire Police throughout this whole episode with Ralph. I complained to him directly in June 2010. Nothing happened. I submitted a grievance against him and numerous senior officers in January 2011, including Assistant Chief Constable John Parkinson and DCI Chris Rowley. Nothing happened. I complained at the same time to the IPCC. Nothing happened.
What you can actually do that as a serving police officer. You can complain to the IPCC.
Nothing happened other than a few further concert efforts by police to criminalise Ralph in undercover operations later that year. I mean, this is ridiculous, isn't it? What we're talking about here. Norman Bettison resigned 12 days before Cedric was going. He thought he was going to be elected as the police crime commissioner on the 8th of November 2012. So because Cedric couldn't put in a grievance complaint against him, which is evidence there, he now is going to be the police. Hopefully, if he was voted in, he would have been the crime commissioner of West Yorkshire. And Bettison knew that he was corrupt, hiding the Hillsborough stuff and a lot of other things. That Cedric, the first thing Cedric would have done was, I'm sacking the chief constable.
Mm.
So Bettison resigned on the 23rd of October 2012, just before that election.
What does he mean by undercover operations in relation to you? What does that mean?
Well, I probably don't know, do I? Because I've got no idea.
You've never had no disclosure.
Well, there's some. There were some strange setups going on and what have you, which Cedric's on side here, isn't he?
Yeah.
Totally on side with
No,
me.
totally, 100%. I mean, he's like 120%.
Yeah.
Well, not, yeah.
He said earlier that there was undercover operations against me and him. So whether he's got rid of his undercover operations by this time, and now there's not just undercover operations.
It's though, right? I'm just reading the next paragraph, right, which you can read out in a set. It's very incestuous. Is Cedric? I mean, he almost seems like he's not normal, as in. I know you go your word, whatever it is, but from a psychological perspective, he doesn't seem all there.
Well, I think he thinks the police are his family and they should protect him and look after him better than his real family. So when you've got the chief constable, the assistant chief constable, and Chris Rowley, who's head of protection services for West Yorkshire Police, which is nothing to do with protection of the public, it's to do with protecting the police force itself.
Let me read this next paragraph, right?
Yeah.
It uses some words which are quite potent. On Monday, the 12th of December 2011, I went to see Glenn and his wife Claire at their home. It says in Likely. Is that a place, is it?
Ilkley.
Right.
Yeah.
Ilkley, is it? All right,
Yeah.
fine. So I went to see, right? That's a delivered subject matter at their home, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. I
Yeah.
went to warn Glenn about his relationship with Holmes. So that
Which
was
is
his intention. Yeah. So he had a reason to do this. Yeah. And then he goes on, this is an important word, Ralph. I was satisfied, right? He satisfied himself that Holmes was dishonest and a very dangerous, scheming individual. Look at those words, right? I
yeah.
satisfied myself
Yeah.
that he was dishonest and a dangerous, scheming individual. I
Yeah.
told Glenn what I thought. He doesn't go on to elaborate on that, and was very concerned that he was using Glenn as his status as a retired police officer. Well, Cedric kind of used that as well, with exertion conduct for his own ends. Mm. How do you interpret that, Ralph?
Paranoia, because it's like he's been obsessed with Holmes, and bear in mind, Holmes is like one of my best friends. You know, we've done lots of. Well, he's just a great friend. We've been away together. We've been to weddings together. We've done lots of business together, and what have you. And I just think because of his paranoia, he's targeting
You reckon
Holmes.
he's paranoid due to his criminality?
Who's Cedric?
Yeah.
No, I think he's paranoid because of being a police officer. He was
What?
diagnosed with paranoia.
Being a police officer will make you paranoid.
Well, I think it's very difficult, isn't it, to sign as a 16-year-old and still be there in your 30 years later.
I can get like PTSD and that sort of stuff because you see all sorts of stuff that we would never see. I get that, but the I was basically telling a 30-year friend not to trust Holmes.
Yeah, who was my best? Well, Holmes was one of my best friends.
Okay, you carry on.
Holmes really should be suing Cedric for all this slander. And I've told him that 3 or 4 years ago.
Yes,
Holmes's father was a policeman.
I'm fed up with all this litigious sort of mentality in society. I should just sue you and all that sort of stuff. I can't stand all that sort of thing. Well,
No, I can't. But at some point, somebody's got to do something. There's lots of people I need to take.
especially no. What we'll say though, a caveat to that is, if someone's out there defaming you all the time, then yeah, you need to basically get justice. But
Back in 2007, doing what in 2026, what I should have had no interruptions in doing,
Mm.
regardless of spending 4 years in prison. And all this should have come out at the trial. There was no elephants in the room. There was no Cedric. There was no Stephen Thomas. Because of the insider dealing to protect one Cedric from losing his pension, going to prison for the rest of his life, and the other, Stephen Thomas, who's a self-confessed rapist that's embezzled money with his brother Simon, to stop them going to jail. And the only person who goes to jail is me, and I'm thinking, what? What's going on?
Yeah, like I said, I'm sorry to use this word. There was a narrative set, wasn't there? But I think cleverly it was set by Stephen Thomas.
Simon Thomas.
And Simon Thomas sorry, as well.
Simon Thomas, because I didn't know who Stephen Thomas was until April 2000.
No, but they were talking to each other, weren't they? And Stephen was the one that had the money, wasn't it?
Well, they both had the money. The family had the money. They had to hide it from Thomas.
Both, but
They both were given. They were both given 3.5 million by the father.
I know that much, but Stephen was the one that wanted to evade the tax and also paying Jane up.
No, he wanted to not pay Jane out, which is correct. And Simon Thomas used me as a conduit, knowing that he had total faith in me to make sure that Jane wasn't paid out. But what the idiots didn't realise that the dad was going to die before 4 years, so they suddenly got a tax on 40% of 7 million, which is what the dad gifted them.
Yeah, I think it's more than 4 years, Ralph. Anyway, but I'm not a tax expert, but I'm definitely confident it's more than 4 years.
40%.
No, what I mean is, to set up a trust and that sort of stuff, it's more than 4 years.
It's 4 years, and then it's reduced percentage per year.
I don't know. That doesn't matter. All right, let's carry on. It was suggested to me.
Yeah, on more than one occasion by my Police Federation representative, Inspector Tempest Mitchell, that my brother knows Simon Morris. I have asked Ralph and Simon Morris if this is the case. There's been no association between them ever. That's true. So, yeah, so why is, bear in mind, Cedric was investigating Simon Morris, which he spoke about earlier in Operation Fern 2008. So Cedric now at some point is obviously speaking to me, but he's also spoken to Simon Morris. I don't know anything about that. I do know he met Simon Morris and the son-in-law of Eccleston in 2011, 2014, way after this. But anyway,
this gets even more ridiculous.
This is what I believe Richard Holmes led the police to believe through carefully planned manipulation of police intelligence networks, assisted in this by other individuals, in brackets informants, protecting their own interests. This is an unhealthy relationship between police and their informants. Ralph has been
no, pause there, right?
Yeah.
Right. What is the hell has that got to do with your case?
Probably nothing, really.
It's nothing. It's like, again, you might as well just talk to the winds. I mean, this is what I'm saying. This Cedric is not normal.
He's already being investigated himself by the same police officers that end up putting me in prison.
But your brother Cedric, I'm sorry to say, he's a bit of a div. This is what I believe Ralph Christie led to the police to believe through carefully planned manipulation of the police intelligence network. It wasn't even carefully planned, if I'm all honesty, reading the case. It wasn't. There was nothing clever about the case.
No.
It was just all skullduggery and stitch up. Assisted in this by other individuals, informants. There wasn't any informants. Protecting their own interests. Who? There is an unhealthy relationship between the police and these informants. Who are the informants? Did you have any informants on the stand?
Richard Holmes is classing Richard Holmes as an informant, which is an informant is a chiz.
All right.
Also, he's talking about the police officers being Bettison, Parkinson, and Rowley.
No, I get the police are corrupt in this situation, yeah, right, including your brother. But I get all that, yeah. Unfortunately, that's just the way it is. And hopefully, things will be uncovered down the line. But this means absolutely nothing from a very senior police officer.
Apart from protecting him, yeah. Anyway, it goes on to say Ralph has been unable to operate effectively since DC Skidmore sent out the damaging email in September 2009 suggesting Ralph was a fraudster, and then supporting this to go to a far greater extent in meeting, phone calls, and one-sided biased interviews with investors. But it's Cedric that ended up creating all these people at a later date to become prosecution witnesses, with like Pat Brownette and Matthew Clark, Paul Walker, Dave Francis, all these people.
What do you mean by one-sided bias interviews? What that doesn't even make any sense. It's not even proper English. One-sided bias interviews with investors. That doesn't make any sense.
Anyway, it is imperative that your recollections of these discussions and other information you have that may assist are documented and brought to my attention. Ultimately, I would hope that any losses, hardships suffered by individuals is legally deemed to be the responsibility of those that are empowered to uphold the law and those that have acted maliciously for their own personal interests, which is exactly what has happened to me. Yeah, very strange. But of course, then he becomes officer in charge of Operation Langan and puts me in jail at a later date. I appreciate that this is complex and that many of you will not have any knowledge of police investigations, activities and tactics. It may be that we will arrange a conference in the future where I will be happy to answer any questions. Please feel free to email me in the meantime and I will endeavour to do my best to answer with clarity. So this has gone out to all my investors, brothers. And he does have a meeting the 21st of April 2013. Happy to answer the questions which we dealt with in the previous show. Finally, a list of reasons that indicate people are behaving maliciously. Break-in at Ralph's house in Crete, 11th of September 2009, when computer hard drive money was stolen. Well, we've evidenced that in previous programmes because that was Michael Thompson and Kimberly Thompson that actually did that. And I brought out a criminal case against them here, but they were still allowed to be prosecution witnesses after Cedric has used his narrative to then, at a later date, criminalise me. Please falsely believe I am a Placius Palace shareholder. Well, Cedric never was a Placius Palace shareholder. False email portraying to be from John Jessup circulated. That was the one that Sue Watt sent out, 27th of September 2009, that made Benedict Clark hit the roof. Threatening documents. The end is nigh for Ralph Christie and his family. Sent to money. Yep, that was sent out by Sue Watt, April 2010. Documents sent anonymously to DC Skidmore. Police officers lying in tape recording interviews. Police seem convinced Ralph owns nothing in Crete. Everything is a scam. Why? Forged Leeds and Bradford properties documents stating Farshay Farm was sold for 1.25 million. That was forged by Sue Watt. Glenn has mentioned a document suggesting that RJC has been involved in international property dealings for 20 years. Glenn says Bateman gave him a document to the police, gave this document to the police. Bateman denies this. Ralph has no knowledge of this document, another forgery. Now, what is interesting about this is SAT 42, brothers. Now, SAT 42 was never used, which was Stephen Thomas SAT, was never used at the Bradford trial, but then they suddenly produced this at the Pocker hearing, and I said, then I reported this as a forgery because Cedric knows this is a forgery back in 2012. It never ever existed, this. I've never been an international property dealer. I've only done business in Crete and West Yorkshire. Okay. And then many items absent from the police disclosure.
Normally, that's quite common, that is actually.
And then Cedric puts, the truth must prevail, Cedric Christie.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you want to go into the
and then he goes on to stab you in the back, basically. That's lovely.
Yeah.
Lovely.
Yeah. Yeah, I sent him an email.
I want to just go back to the comment about one-sided bias, because it does actually go back to narrative. I just want to read this out to you. Because I can't find, I was just trying to look for the document where I wrote on the train that time about narrative.
Okay.
It's quite interesting, this, and it's very relevant to your case, actually. So I've just gone to AI, to be honest, and asked the question. Let me just try and find the relevant sections. Okay, let me just show you what.
Shall I just finish reading the last bit of this whilst you look for it, or?
I've got it. I thought that was it. No?
Well, I sent Cedric an email on the 24th of May, 2014, when it's already contaminated.
Right, do that then. I've got it here anyway, but do that and go on.
Okay, so after all this, I sent Cedric an email titled "Murky Waters Since the Greek Exoneration," which was like 9 months before this. This is the 24th of May, 2014. I said, very happy to see you to clear the murky waters over the last 9 months, hopefully before Jane, my ex-wife, Kent and I return to Greece for only 1 week together on Monday. I will stay on to continue my work and rescue acts till UK trial if no more traps have been set by your ex-boys next January. So you and Kath are welcome to come over for a joint, which was his girlfriend at the time. So this is 24th of May 2014. So all of a sudden, all my bail conditions have changed. The one count against Benedict Clark, which I was exonerated from on the 27th of April, hasn't gone ahead, and it's all based on Cedric and Declan's now allegations. I am very saddened by the Dave Francis position now, as we have a great friendship, great business relationship, and done well over 5 million of carpet business together. How are Howard Tennant, Matthew Clark, Paul Walker, Simon Thomas, and Mario now prosecution witnesses now? Love, Ralph. So then it just says, yeah, I mean, we can leave it at that. But that's me after Cedric has been over here with Declan 6 weeks earlier, and then suddenly jumped the counts from 1 to 19.
Okay, there's a lot to take in there, isn't there?
Yeah.
I just want to go to this one-sided bias thing because I'm not too sure if Cedric even know what he meant by that. But it makes perfect sense in some respect. And some of this is I've not even heard of before, and it makes perfect sense. Well, do you know there's a word for a word for a word for a word, and then you just down the rabbit hole, don't you? I just want to read this out. There's a couple of phrases in here I really like, which are very relevant to your case. One-sided bias interviews. This is not the relevant stuff that I want to talk about, but I just want to just demonstrate that I've actually looked at this. One-sided bias interviews is a hiring context refers to scenarios where an interviewer judgment is systematically distorted by unconscious prejudice. Just bear with me on that. I don't know if you know what that means, but basically, they've made a predetermined decision. Yeah.
Yeah.
Personal preferences. Maybe you can be black, white, ugly, or fat, or whatever. Or preconceived notations rather than a candidate of actual qualifications. So basically, that's what you're not looking at with clean hands, in my opinion. These biases often lead to an unfair evaluation where one aspect of a candidate or an interviewee own preferences of their decision. Now, let me go on. I've never heard of some of these sort of words before. I'm dyslexic, and I got diagnosed at the age of, I think, 15. I write from my heart basically, and what I've learned since being of that age. Confirmation bias. The interviewer forms an initial opinion, positive or negative. Okay, right. If you look at a police scenario, that's what they do. They will deny it. They will deny it. Right? Only ask questions. This is an important bit, Ralph. Only ask questions or focuses on answers that confirms that belief. So, for example, was it the sky blue that day and that sort of stuff? Right. And they want you to say, yeah, it's blue, ignoring contradictory evidence. But they want you to say, basically, so if, for example, the sky was blue with, red and, I don't know, whatever, in the background, right? They want you to they just want to ask you that question specifically to fit their narrative. I didn't want to use that word, but it's hard not to. The ignoring contradictory evidence. I've not heard this before. Halo horn effect. A single positive trait, halo, or a negative trait, horn, overshadows all other information, leading to an unfairly positive or negative view of the candidate. The candidate being, like in your case, the victim. The affinity bias. Interviewers favour candidates who share similar interests, backgrounds, or experience and connect with the person in order to get them to confess to things that perhaps they would not confess to. Then you got stereotyping, inconsistent questioning, asking different questions to different candidates, or asking the same question but in different framing in order to meet your narrative. Huh.
Yeah.
You know, it's painful, isn't it?
D.I. Taylor interviewed Jeff Brown, and I've got it in writing. And he quite happily says to Jeff that, well, I knew Ralph was a criminal the moment I interviewed him.
Who's that? You?
Yeah. D.I. Taylor's interviewing Jeff Brown, saying that I knew Ralph was a criminal the moment I interviewed him.
So he set a narrative then, basically.
Yeah. But then D.I. Taylor at the same time knew that Stephen Thomas was a rapist and not done anything about it. You got to go back to the birthday of Stephen Thomas on the 28th of April 2006, where he'd been to that strippers club and some sex act was performed. And then when he gets home, he rapes Jane Thomas, who reports it to the police. I can't remember the officer, Ford or whatever it was. He was arrested. Alistair Bateman defended him on the 21st of May 2006. Ray Singh then clears him of it. You know, and this is all before any money transaction has transpired in Crete with me through Simon. And like you say, they've all, this has all kind of gone on, and way before anything was made criminal or invented in Crete about me.
Okay, we haven't got a lot of time. As I said, Jane Thomas has been in contact with me. She's never contacted me before. She prior contacted me through a third-party friend of hers, which I understand you know, Ralph.
I don't know her. She just contacts me as Claire.
Right.
I'd like to know her because she's been very helpful. I've had no contact with Jane Thomas, as I said, since before the family court trial which I think was May the 21st, 2021.
Yeah. So this series, we're in episode. What number is it again? Sorry, apologies.
26.
26. So that's 52 hours. And she finally contacted me during the week and sent me. We had 2 conversations, lasted quite a lengthy period of time. And she sent me a lot of documents, one of which is here, which makes things possibly uncomfortable for you, Ralph. But you told me you've already seen it anyway. So it's 8 pages, and let's try and start cracking on. And she's given me permission to put this on the radio. So it's dated October 2014, signed, and it goes on. Ignore the initial bits; it doesn't matter. The first time I heard this is just her identifiers, like as in who she is and that sort of stuff. The first time I heard of Ralph Christie was in approximately 2004. My then sister-in-law, Alison Thomas, and my brother-in-law, Simon Thomas, had said they had bought an apartment in Crete with Ralph Christie. Is that true?
Yeah.
Right. How did that go, that transaction? All good?
Perfect. Yeah. Upgraded them and yeah.
Okay, cool. Let's carry on. Alice and Simon discussed Ralph and the property in my presence many times. They said that they had paid cash for it and they didn't use a solicitor. I thought it was strange and a silly thing to do. Alison told me she was working for Ralph. Oh, right. Okay. Alison was working for you.
Simon Thomas as well. Well, she was an interior designer, which it goes on to say, and her and my ex-wife at the time, Jane, were doing furniture for people that were buying properties of us. So it's
Okay,
perfect
fine.
choice.
Okay, fine. You've just not mentioned that before, that's all. And that she was doing interior design with properties in Crete. I believe she's qualified in this area. Sorry, just this is a police statement, isn't it? Yeah, okay, fine. She also told me that she was having. All right, okay, fine. I've not read this, obviously. She having an affair with Ralph's business partner, Hugh Clark. Who's Hugh Clark?
Hugh Clark Williams is the guy Simon Thomas paid 800,000 to buy me out of Cretan Life, so that Stephen Thomas then became the partner in 2006. If
All
you
right.
remember, we did mention about this in a previous program. I know it's difficult. This is that we're reading this out. Um, I mean, where Jane earlier says it's stupid not to use a solicitor and all the rest of it. Perfectly normal here, because I was the person to trust, not the solicitors, because I knew what I was doing. So this affair happened after, if you remember,
Oh, yeah.
Jane Thomas.
I just
Jane
remember.
Thomas.
Okay,
Yeah.
I just remember something that you told me um, when I was over with you in Crete. I know I was only there for a couple of days. And Reiki is not the answer, I assure you. But where you basically how you got involved in property, and the only way you could have got involved in property is because your connections with people. I can't remember who you told me it was. Um,
I've got four Greek cousins.
that was it. Yeah, that was it. Yeah.
So yeah, Jason, who was a cousin, obviously speaks Greek. He'd worked for the World Bank. He was a very clever guy. He opened many doors for me in 2001, 2002. I mean, Jane's met Jason, Alison and Simon have met Jason, Stephen Thomas knew Jason, Hugh Clark Williams knew Jason, and I probably wouldn't have been able to do it without him. It's just so sad what has kind of happened
I
about,
can believe that. I can believe that. I believe everything's about connections.
yeah.
In early 2006, I made the decision to divorce my husband, Stephen.
Yeah,
All right.
that's
Okay.
that's one way to treat a wife, is it?
So,
Unreasonable. Yeah.
due to unreasonable behavior, I mean, that's the legal term, isn't it? In on the court papers, you have to basically tick a couple of boxes, and one of them is unreasonable behavior. But this guy's a self-confessed rapist. I got the papers from the court and began proceedings. We have been married for 20 years. In April 2006, Stephen told me he was going to Crete with a woman called Jane Snowball. Who's that?
That's my ex-wife. So he wouldn't have been coming with. I mean, he would have been coming to Crete, but he would have been coming with Jane Snowball and me.
Oh, I see. This was the first of Stephen's many visits to Crete that year. He told me that he was looking into running a business with Ralph Christie. I became concerned because he would describe buying properties as part of the business, but I couldn't understand how he was doing it. The money, so I'm just looking at the clock. The money we had at the time was in a joint bank account, my savings account, and the property we owned in this country. During the divorce, I used solicitors to represent me. Her name was Christine. I'll leave the surname out for the sake of it. And she worked for Graham Stowe, Bates and Solicitors, and their office in Harrogate. The case number, blah blah blah. Stephen used a solicitor who was Richard Manning and of Walker Morris Solicitors in Leeds. Stephen told me that he was using Stephen Manning because he is really good at. Really?
Well, we've spoken about Richard Manning. He's the one that knows that he's committed the rapes and all the rest of it. And who
Okay,
was
let me continue because we haven't got long left. We're not going to be able to get much through this. Hiding money for the other side. My solicitor asked Richard Manning to explain Stephen's trip to Crete, and okay, this is unfolding quite quickly.
yeah.
I get it. I get it. And his financial interests over there. Richard Manning would deny that Stephen had any financial interest aboard, to my solicitor, but Stephen would continue to tell me he had lots of property, etc., over there. On one occasion, Stephen told me he was selling shares in a hotel he owned. Why would he even brag about it then if he's trying to hide his assets?
Yeah, I just think he's just a nasty bastard, isn't he? He's just completely destroyed that woman's life. And of course, he was selling shares at 50,000 K. This is Blackie's Palace. He was a partner with me selling the shares.
Yeah, well, she's not lying here because it's the same figure you mentioned in the past.
Yeah.
He said he had sold a 50K share to a woman called Miss Dresler, who had other hotels. On another occasion, Stephen told me he had traveled by car with Ralph to Switzerland. All right, okay, fine. All right, we're going to end it there. Ralph, can you just put an asterisk next to that? Because it goes, I get a sense what we're getting into here. Which we will continue on the next episode without a doubt.
Yeah, but Stephen Thomas was actually selling shares alongside me. It was a joint project.
I can tell he's obviously proud of the fact that he's in a business with you as a joint venture. So he's a partner, and he's actually selling shares as well.
Backing to her and raping her at the same time and beating his kids up and hiding 4.5 million or whatever it is. This is totally stupid. Hey, you want my last song?
Yeah, that's control though, Ralph, isn't it? That's control.
Yeah.
You know, to put you in your place, saying I'm bigger than you and all that sort of jazz.
Yeah.
I've met scumbags like this in the past. All right, let's go to Ralph. Can you just please do me a favor, make a marker of where we stopped off?
I do that every week, producer.
All right, let's see this out then. What's your final song?
Plastic Bertrand Band, Sapla Mon Moi.
All right, that's definitely not on our playlist, but I'm guessing you sent it to me.
Great song from the early 1980s. I Am the King of the Divan. I think Stephen Thomas thinks he's the king of the divan, which is the bed. Yeah.
Have you sent me that song? Because that definitely would be on our playlist.
I sent it, yeah.
All right. You are the judge, Ralph. Remember that. Catch you next week.
J'ai sur mon lit à bouffer sa langue en buvant trop mon whisky. Quant à moi, peu dormi, vide et bris. Mais j'ai dû dormir dans la gouttière où j'ai eu un flash. En 4 couleurs. Allez hop, un matin, une louloute est venue chez moi. Poupée de cellophane, cheveux chinois. Un sparadrap, une gueule de bois. A bu ma bière dans un grand verre en caoutchouc. Dans son igloo, ça plane pour moi, ça plane pour moi, ça plane pour moi, moi, ça plane pour moi, ça plane pour moi. Allez hop, la nana, quelle panard, quelle vibration de s'envoyer sur paillasson, lit, mais ruiné, vidé, comblé. You are the king of the divan, qu'elle me dit en passant. I am the king of the divan. Ça plane pour moi, ça plane pour moi, ça plane pour moi, moi, ça plane pour moi. Ça plane pour moi.
passer l'évier, le bar me laissant seul, comme un grand connard. Le pied dans le plat, ça plane pour moi, ça plane pour moi, ça plane pour moi, moi, ça plane pour moi. Ça plane pour moi, ça plane pour moi, ça plane pour moi.